Mr. Shaw, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you this afternoon?
Thanks for asking. So would you tell us your name and DOC number?
Shon Shaw, 340462.
All right, and let's see, who do you have there with you today? That ain't go.
Ma'am?
Who's behind you?
Oh, Roy Hughes, ma'am.
Roy Hughes. Where's Terrence Wynn?
Right here.
Oh, good, I can't see him. Move over so we can see. Oh, there you are. Okay, good. Okay. We also have Mr. Kerry Myers with the Parole Project, and all three of your guests are going to speak on your behalf at the appropriate time, Mr. Shaw. Let me just read some identifying information into the record. Mr. Shaw, you're classified as a fourth felony offender, currently serving an 80-year sentence. You were sentenced in Caddo Parish in August of 2005 as a habitual offender, aggravated criminal damage to property, as a habitual offender, second-degree kidnapping, as a habitual offender, attempted manslaughter. You have a parole eligibility date, which is July 23rd, 2024, and a good time date, February 10th, 2084. Does all that sound correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. Would you answer her questions?
Good afternoon, Mr. Shaw.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson.
How are you?
I'm fine. How about you, Ms. Jackson?
I'm good enough.
Okay.
How old are you, Mr. Shaw?
49,
How long have you been incarcerated on this charge?
19 years, and I want to say 5 or 6 months.
All right, so you were 30, around 30 when this crime was committed. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, by 30, you were already a fourth offender. You were involved in quite a bit of criminal activity. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to try to figure out, why you think you were involved in that kind of activity. In 1994, you were on probation for possession Schedule 2, and that got revoked. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you also had a disturbing the peace and illegal carrying of a weapon. In 1996, you had a simple battery and an accessory after the fact to first-degree murder and an unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In 97, you had a second DWI and a possession of, that was 97. In 2003, you had a possession Schedule 1. And so let's talk about why were you involved in so much criminal activity during that time in your life? What was going on with you? Why were you committing all those crimes?
At that point in my life, I wasn't taking life seriously, to be honest with you.
What does that mean?
Ma'am,
What does that mean, not taking life seriously?
I was just living in the moment. I didn't begin to take life seriously until I made it to Angola and began taking the self-help programs to prepare myself.
No, I know you want to talk about all that, but I want to talk about, this crime was just,
Ma'am,
I said the crime that you're serving time for was just totally, unacceptable.
yes, ma'am.
And so I'm trying to get an understanding of why you would even involve yourself in something like this. Even your own mother was a victim. And I'm trying to get an understanding of what was going on with you that caused you or enabled you to just be involved in these situations. And I don't want to hear that you weren't thinking, because everybody thinks. So I want to know specifically why you've been in prison now for 19 years and you've had the opportunity to reflect on your life and on your choices. And as you sit here today and you look back 19 years ago, why do you think you were doing all this stuff?
I think well, I don't think, I know why I was doing it, because I had abused drugs and alcohol and was making a lot of bad decisions.
Okay, when
A
did
lot
you?
of those bad,
When did you start abusing drugs and alcohol? What age?
at, between 14 and 15,
And what kind of drugs were you using?
marijuana,
What else?
alcohol, well,
What else?
alcohol and marijuana.
Well, you had possession schedule 2 and possession schedule 1. So it's more than marijuana. Now marijuana is schedule 1, but you had schedule 2. So it wasn't just
I never personally used the Schedule 2. I was calling myself trying to sell the Schedule 2 at that time.
and what was the schedule 2?
Ma'am,
And what was the schedule 2?
cocaine,
Right? Well, how often were you using marijuana?
every day, frequently,
And tell me about your alcohol use.
frequently every day.
Were you drinking? Or was your drinking choice?
What was my drinking choice, you said, asked?
What did you drink?
Oh. Brandy, pretty much every day.
E&J? I think I saw that
Oh,
somewhere.
my son, ma'am,
Almasant?
yes, ma'am.
Now, were you employed? When this
Okay,
happened, were you employed? Because you were 30 years old, so were you employed?
yes, ma'am.
What kind of work were you doing?
You may finish it.
Okay, so that was kind of off and on work, right? You
Yes,
probably,
ma'am, because of the weather, yes, ma'am.
like, you don't do cement finishing every day. How far did you go in school?
I graduated,
In high school?
ma'am,
Graduated high school?
with a GED, yes, ma'am.
Well, that's, okay, so you dropped out of high school.
You know, I went from high school to my first incarceration. I never finished.
And what grade were you in, when you got your first incarceration?
12,
And you got your GED while incarcerated?
yes, ma'am.
Well, let's talk about the day of this incident. Describe for us, what happened.
On June 26, 2004, I made a bad decision.
I know, but what'd you do?
I kidnapped Jesse Jeter
Who was your
and
mom?
assaulted Jesse. Ma'am?
That's your mom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, let's go back to, the restaurant. The IHOP. What happened at the IHOP?
I went to the IHOP to talk to Karen Harris. She refused. She refused because she said she didn't feel comfortable coming outside with me. Karen Harris was my girlfriend at the time that I had recently. Her and I had recently broken up.
So how did you know she was at IHOP?
When I talked to my sister Cheryl, she got on the phone and told me that she was at the IHOP waiting to eat. And Karen Harris got on the phone and said that's where they were. And I asked her, could I come to the IHOP to speak with her?
Okay. And did she say, oh yeah, come on?
She told me it was fine, but once I got there, she said she didn't feel comfortable. So I left.
Is that because of a past history of violence?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you left and went where?
I went to Jesse Jeter's residence, which is my mother.
Okay. And what did you do when you got to your mother's house?
when I arrived at the residence, my mother, which is Jessie Jeter, and I were talking about the recent breakup between Karen Harris and I, as to why she broke up with me, and we were communicating about the miscarriage that Karen Harris had recently had, and my mother was telling me that she didn't feel I was ready to become a parent because my life wasn't in order the way it should have been.
And what did
And
you do when she told you that?
we were still discussing the issue, and she was telling me that it might have been best that it happened that way. My mother told me that,
Okay, I need the whole conversation, but didn't you attack your mother? And your sister?
ma'am. What you say? I can't understand what you're saying. Could you repeat that again?
Hold on, it froze up.
Mr. Shaw, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
I had to move to another location because we're having technical difficulties.
Okay.
My question was, when you left your, the IHOP, you went to your mother's house and, Cheryl received a call from your mother, and she could hear you striking your mother and your mother crying. So you attacked your mother, isn't that correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, and then you forced your mother into her own car, correct?
Correct.
And then you pursued the car that Karen Harris and your sister were in, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And you deliberately ran them off the road, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
And your mom ended up unconscious and had to go to ICU, and she was there for several days, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
And then Karen Harris got out of, you forced Karen Harris to go with you into the woods, and then you hit her with a stick and threatened to kill her. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Where did all that rage come from, Mr. Shaw?
So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Ma'am,
I said, where did all that
All right.
rage come from?
the rage came from me trying to process the miscarriage, the recent breakup, and the totality of everything together at one time, to be honest with you.
You know, we all face situations, but most of us don't respond the way you responded.
I agree. At that time, I didn't understand how to open up and communicate with other people.
Right?
And that's no excuse. However, since I've been in Angola and thinking for a change and
And we're
victim
gonna,
awareness and
okay, we're gonna talk about the programs, because you have taken quite a few programs. So what programs did you take to address your problem with drugs and alcohol?
I've taken substance abuse, anger management.
No, please listen to my question.
Ma'am?
What programs did you take to address your drug and alcohol issues? Anger management doesn't address drugs and alcohol. I'm asking you about drugs and alcohol.
I've taken substance abuse, the substance abuse program
Which one? They have a lot
through the
of
mental
them.
health.
Which substance abuse program?
The,
Yeah, I know you're nervous. It's okay, but I just wanna know, you said you were using marijuana almost every day, you were drinking almost
Yes,
every
ma'am.
day. I'm trying to find out, what have you done to help you deal with the drinking and the marijuana use? What programs did you take that taught you about your problems?
Uh,
When you have to look in your book,
no, I was, ma'am,
when you have to look in your book, that means maybe they're just certificates in the book, but they're not in you. Because if they're in you, you could tell me, well, this program I took and this is what really opened my eyes. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I got where you're, there's not, it's not, excuse me, Ms. Jackson.
You took,
Ma'am,
you took living in balance, is that,
ma'am,
did you take living in balance?
yes, ma'am,
Is that a substance abuse program?
yes, ma'am.
What helped you? What did you learn in that?
I actually learned that if I have one of those situations to where I'm yearning for or having a desire for any type of substance, that I need to go to find the nearest counselor or someone I can talk to help me cope with that situation. Because thus far, I have been doing excellent by doing so.
Okay. Did you take any other substance abuse classes besides living in balance?
No, no, ma'am. Other than the 100-hour program, but no, ma'am. That's it. That in the 100-hour pre-release program.
Okay. You also took thinking for change.
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you get out of that?
I learned how to be a better think. If I encounter a situation, I learn how to remove myself from the situation to give myself time to think about it and make a rational decision about whatever situation it is.
What about victim awareness?
I learned that I have no right to victimize anyone whatsoever or take advantage of anyone, because I have to treat everyone just as I want to be treated myself. And I had learned to respect the boundaries of other people.
Thinking back, based on what you learned in victims awareness, do you think that back when this crime occurred, you felt like you had the right to control Ms. Harris?
Thinking back, do I feel I had the right to control Ms. Harris?
Back then, did you feel like you had the right to control Ms. Harris?
I don't feel as though I had the right to control her,
I said,
because I had the right to control no one.
no, I said, at that time, did you feel that way? Obviously, if you're trying to force her to be in a relationship with you and you're trying to beat her and, run her off the road, to me, that suggests you thought you had a right to control her and her choices. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. Looking at it from that perspective, I would.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to trip you up. I'm just trying to see if courses that you've taken them in.
Ma'am,
And that I said, I'm trying to see if the programs that you've taken, you've really taken them in.
oh, okay.
Other than
I heard you that time.
Yeah, whether or not they've changed the way you used to think.
All right.
Okay, I know you're nervous and I don't mean for you to be nervous. But can you see how what you did back then was an effort to control Miss Harris and force her into something that she didn't want?
Yes, ma'am.
But now you understand what?
Now I totally understand that I had I have no right to do that with nobody. Because everyone has boundaries that they have there for a reason. And you have to respect those boundaries as well as the person in order to receive respect from that person.
You have children?
I do, but I haven't met them personally yet.
Okay, so you never knew your kids. I'm just asking.
Ma'am,
You never knew your kids.
no, ma'am.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because you took inside out dads and
Because-
outside dads. So what made you take those programs?
I wanted to learn how to be family oriented and what to do in a family setting. Because I actually didn't know until I took that class and learned what it was to be a family, what it consists of as far as in everybody participating and playing their part in a family setting.
Okay. You're also in Vets incarcerated rather?
No, I'm not actually a member of the club. I just assist them whenever they ask me to help them with
I got you.
different functions that they have for the prison.
And the same thing with the License Association. You help them,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? What do you do with the JCs?
I enrolled in their one of their educational programs
Which one?
as far as the what it was, shucks.
It's okay.
They have a curriculum that consists of family values, life skills, what else?
What's your relationship with your mother today?
At this point,
Yes,
we are talking and still making amends with one another. Well, we talk frequently.
okay. And you realize that you do need to make amends to your
Yes,
mom.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I do. I started doing that with her and her husband, Harold.
I see that you've taken, NCCER core curriculum. You've got certifications in welding and carpentry. Is that correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. What's your job at the prison?
At the prison,
Mhm.
I'm the East Yard Supply Room clerk. My job consists of ensuring that security and the inmate population is taken care of as far as in any supplies that security may need and any supplies that the inmate population needs, such as soap, toilet paper,
Okay, how long have you had that job?
approximately 3 years, ma'am.
All right, and what kind of other jobs have you had?
I was going to school and I was going to school for carpentry and welding, and also I was a yard orderly at one time.
Okay. You have an excellent disciplinary record. You've only had 4 write-ups, in the 19 years that you've been there. The last one was in 2011, and that was a, defiance. So what happened in 2011? Do you remember about that write-up?
Yes, ma'am, that was for smoking in the dormitory,
Okay,
smoking a cigarette in the dormitory.
okay. Right,
It was around the time that they were phasing this tobacco out.
I got you. But that was the last write-up that you've had, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So if, and when you are successful, what would your plan be? What's your transition plan? What would you hope to do, when you're released?
My transition plan is to go to the Louisiana Parole Project, and once I'm released from the Louisiana Parole Project, to work with the Pipes organization as far as in helping you not make the same mistakes that I made that led me to the point of where I am right now today before you.
You understand that, but also understand you gotta have a place to live and a place to work. So my question is, where would you live? And what kind of work would you expect to be able to do?
Prior to leaving the Louisiana Parole Project, which is geared towards helping me prepare to re-enter to society, I plan to have all of that taken care of prior to leaving the parole project. As far as in a job, because they prepare you.
Do you have family that you plan to live with? I mean, where would you live?
I was planning on going out of state, Dallas, Texas, and live with Anthony Scott,
Who's Anthony Scott?
cousin of mine.
All right. And, have you talked to Anthony? Has he said, oh, yeah, come whenever you get out?
Yes, ma'am. I submitted a letter that he wrote in recommendation of it, agreeing to allow me to live with him in Dallas, Texas.
All right. And what kind of work do you think you could do in Dallas?
I was planning on doing construction work in the field I was certified in as far as in carpentry.
Warden, Fellow, what can you tell us about, Mr. Shaw?
You know, since coming here in, Johnny May UN in June of '06, we've only had 4 write-ups, as you alluded to earlier. He came in as a medium, worked his way up to a Min B in 2013, Class A trustee in 2015, and has maintained that. He's had some different jobs around. The jobs, some of them that he's had, in fact, right now, the file clerk in the E-short supply room is for institutional need. So he has been moved around, and you know, sometimes we find inmates that don't necessarily want a job, so they'll figure out a way, even if it might be disciplinary, to get out of a job. He's never done that in his time here as far as work for us. He's done programming. We've not had any problems with it.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Renata, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. All right, let's, can we hear from the parole project? Are they still up here?
Yes, good afternoon. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project, here to let the board know that we're in support of Mr. Shaw. We recognize that his parole date is not until July of 2024, but we are prepared to provide him long-term transitional support. He's got 2 significant skills, both in welding and in carpentry. He's at that sweet spot in age where our employment enhancement program team can work with him. They work constantly with businesses and industries to place qualified clients in career type jobs. And we believe that that is a very viable option for Mr. Shaw. His record, his disciplinary record is exemplary. We believe that it shows that he knows how to follow rules and be in compliance with rules. His programming has proven that he is consistently working to improve himself. And we would just ask this board to consider all the factors here and grant us parole today.
Thank you. Okay, Mary Angola, did we hear from Mr. Hughes? No, here's Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Hughes,
You.
right here, I can hear you.
Want to say something on behalf of Mr. Shaw?
Yes, y'all coming to support Shon Shaw today. I was a former inmate here at Angola, Louisiana State Penitentiary for 22 years. I paroled in June 2019. I was a Class A trustee, worked at the Mayflower building on in Baton Rouge, the parole board headquarters. I remodeled the building down there. I'm a certified carpenter 12 school with Shon Shaw. We was a carpenter. I was willing to support Shon Shaw. I have my own business, RLH Ventures, and I'm willing to give Shon Shaw a job and a place to stay if he needed.
Well, thanks for being there on his behalf and congratulations on your success.
Amen.
Terrence.
Yes, ma'am. As Karen Miles was saying, my organization Pike, where the parole project would let up on Shon and release him if he's to be released. We stand behind him. We're going to support him in any way possible. If he needs a job in the Shreveport area, if he comes there, we can help him acquire a job. We can also help him get housing in the Shreveport area if he's to come there. But however, whatever, we just want to support the parole project and helping Shon get back to where he needs to be as a productive member of society.
Thank you for being here. Mr. Shaw, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
Yeah, could you repeat that question? What was the last?
Do you have anything that you
thing
want
I
to
say?
add before they vote?
Yes, I would like to thank you for allowing me to come before you today to be considered for parole eligibility. Also, I would like to apologize to Jesse G, to my mother and my family for victimizing them and traumatizing them and for just all the unworthy things that I warranted up on them. Also, I would like to apologize to Karen Harris and her family for victimizing her and her family and all of the hurt and heartache that I put them through. Also, I would like to apologize to Danielle Adams and her family for victimizing her and the trauma and pain and frustration I put her and her family through. And also, I would like to apologize to my community for all of the hurt, heartache, and pain that I've inflicted upon it and anyone in that community that I've done it to. Thank you for allowing me this moment to speak.
All right, thank you, sir. I think we're prepared to vote. Mrs. Jackson?
Mr. Shaw,
Yes, ma'am.
there would be a lot of reasons to deny you relief. One would be your criminal history, and one would be the just circumstances of this case. But honestly, the first thing that surprised me when I reviewed your case after reading the facts was that you have managed to go almost 20 years and you only had 4 write-ups. And generally, you would not expect someone with this kind of background and this kind of crime to only have 4 write-ups in almost 20 years, and the last write-up being 12 years ago. You just would not expect that just looking at you on paper. I understand that you were nervous today,
Yes,
And you
ma'am.
probably didn't express yourself as well as you would have wanted to. But I did see that you gained some insight into yourself and the crimes that you committed. I think victim awareness, even though you didn't say it, I think victim awareness has helped you a lot. It
Yes,
helps you see things not from your perspective, but from the perspective of the people who are on the other side of this incident. You've taken some good programming, you've gotten some vocational skills, and you done some service with, the JCs and the License Association. You obtained and maintained a Class A trustee status. And all of those things speak to the fact that maybe you needed this time out. Maybe you needed to be where you are in that structured environment so that you would have a chance to learn more about yourself and learn some better skills. And I might be the only one on the panel who feels that way, but I think you have shown a tremendous amount of progress. And I hope that you are able to make amends to your mom and to the other people that you hurt. So I'm willing to take a chance on you, Mr. Shaw. My vote would be to, grant, based on your excellent conduct record, your good programs and the positive remarks from Gordon Falgout. My vote would be to grant your parole to the Louisiana Parole Project, and that you remain there as long as they feel that you need to be there, until you can get on your feet. I think they're a good resource for you. Also, you are to not have any contact with Karen Harris. You are to perform 5 hours of community service work with at-risk youth. You are to abide by a 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew. And that's 5 hours a month of community service work. Now that, I'm just one vote, Mr. Shaw, but that's my vote. Mrs. Jackson, Mr. Rochelle.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Shaw, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shaw, based on the violent nature of the offense, you endangered the lives of multiple people, including your mother. Extensive criminal history, a poor supervision history, a history of violence. I think 20 years is insufficient time served for the egregious nature of the offense that you committed. The judge, the DA's office, law enforcement are strongly opposed to your early release. And I think you need some additional substance abuse education and/or treatment. For all those reasons, I'm denying your request.
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle. Mr. Shaw, yours is, you're not real talkative, are you? Can y'all hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. You just don't seem to be real talkative. Is that just because you're not nervous today, or is that just how you are?
I'm nervous.
Okay.
What would you like to know?
I agree with what both of my colleagues have said. You know, I do have some concerns about you, but I did hear you know, some positive remarks from the warden and from the parole project and your friends that are there with you today. I'm willing to go along with Mrs. Jackson and take a chance because you have the backing of the parole project. So my vote would be to grant to a long-term parole project transition plan until they determine that you're ready to go out on your own, so to speak, with the same special conditions that Mrs. Jackson outlined for you. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got two favorable votes, one that was not favorable to your request, but you got two, so you've been granted parole today. Good luck.
Thank you all.